Have you ever had a situation in life where your best friend or a family member was in a toxic relationship? Have you ever experienced your loved one be in a relationship with an abuser? In your past or current relationships, have you been abused or had your personal boundaries crossed? Have you ever abused your partner anyhow yourself? If you answered yes to any of these questions, the matter presented in this video can be of personal interest in relation to you and your current or future partner. Emotional, physical, and sexual abuse in a relationship between partners is no joke and is a very common occurrence here in Kazakhstan and more so worldwide. According to the UN Women Country Brief for Kazakhstan of 2020, around 34% of women in Kazakhstan have experienced physical and or sexual violence at some point in their lives. This is every third Kazakh woman. The same report also states that domestic violence is the most prevalent form of violence against women in Kazakhstan. Moreover, according to the National Statistics Committee of the Republic of Kazakhstan, there were 68,000 cases of domestic violence against women in 2021. Emotional abuse such as insults, threats, and controlling behavior is also a common form of abuse in relationships and is experienced by many women today. The problem with abuse is that it arises from lack of integration of the so-called shadow, dark side of ourselves, discovered by Carl Jung in middle of 20th century. It refers to the unconscious part of personality that is perceived as something negative, primitive, or unacceptable, and that does not match with our ideal image of ourselves. In the broad sense of the word, these are often traits, emotions, and desires that are pushed into the unconscious mind due to social and cultural norms, our desire to fit in and feel valued and accepted. Examples of these can be unacceptable sexual desires or aggression that we are ashamed of and feel guilty of having. Suppression of the shadow is a very dangerous phenomenon. It may lead to harmful and manipulative actions toward others and an overall abusive, destructive, and inauthentic behavior because people do not truly understand why they do what they do and what they truly want. It is important to note that although in no way the actions of abusers are justified, abusers are victims of past abusive and traumatic experience themselves. Only through healing from the aforementioned traumas and better understanding themselves can they stop this abusive behavior and turn it healthy. This is where the purpose of this video lies. We want to bring awareness to the matter and also provide you, the viewer, with ways you can integrate the shadow component in order to process and heal from your own past traumas. We as a society can change only through individual healing of each one of us. Healing can be achieved via implementation of 3 techniques discussed in this video: narrative therapeutic approach in changing outlook of the past, dream interpretation in understanding the unconscious and the self, as well as use of active imagination in resolving past traumatic experiences. Besides the empirical studies conducted that we base our methodology on, an interview with a local expert in psychotherapy here in Almaty had also been conducted. Without further ado, we can begin by introducing the first approach, narrative therapy. It also proved to be of great help at managing one's emotions but under a different angle. The case study that we found concentrates around Steven, an engineer who has been referred to a practitioner by his employer due to an increased number of angry outbursts at the workplace. He has also been getting into a number of fights in clubs and pubs. His friends and family have been avoiding him. This therapy intervention was his last chance to fix things. The therapist used various questions that represent specific approaches at analyzing and potentially solving the problem. Can you tell me how the problem is affecting your emotions? Mapping the issues. Do you think we could name the problem? Externalizing the problem. In case of Steven, he named this problem explosion. Can you remember a time when explosion was not around? Exploring the evolution of the problem. These navigating questions led to the conclusion that it all started 6 months after his girlfriend, Sarah, died in a car accident. The society, and especially his work environment, put certain expectations upon him on the basis of his gender, such as a call to man up. These expectations on how males should behave put a restraint on Steven properly processing his emotion of grief regarding loss of Sarah that led to his explosions. All throughout the process, the therapist was linking the societal influence on his ideas about dealing with his emotions. Further, the therapist asked if there were times when explosions did not happen, looking for exceptions to the rule. Steven then indicated that it happened when linking with a friend named Jack, whom he has not met ever since Sarah passed away. Jack and Steven went out camping, forgot their beers, but ended up having a good time and linking anyway. Jack did not make Steven feel judged or watched, but instead was relaxed and reminiscing about good times back in university. He also did not avoid talking about Sarah and included some of shared memories with her. The culmination of the therapy was the task of the therapist assigned to Steven. She asked him to have a think about his life story again. She then asked him to write how his story might be different if the explosions did not happen. She asked him to write how the control over his daily life as well as his feelings and interactions with his workmates, friends, and family members may change. She also asked him to write how he sees his future and how his story may end. The task helped Steven change the narrative of the story by conducting a new one that he worked hard to maintain. He understands his workmates' views on how males should behave, and he instead focuses on his own reaction to them. His narrative includes other ways to include his masculinity without expressing violence, such as physical activity. The explosions have left. He realizes that he has nothing to prove to his workmates. I know that I can be me, and I like me, says Stephen. Stephen met a girl from his rock climbing club that he's attending, and they entered a relationship. He says that he can be himself, and that helped him get on again with his parents and friends.
Лариса, здравствуйте.
Здравствуйте, Рэнди.
В первую очередь, хотите представиться?
Да. Лариса Тютенькова, сертифицированный транзактный аналитик в области психотерапии Международного реестра.
В принятии своей теневой стороны, что вы можете сказать? Да ведь люди, которые подавляют свою тень, они сами тоже как бы жертвы травм и абьюза.
Да, вот здесь вы правы абсолютно. Возможно, если делать регрессивную технику и если посмотреть, почему человек может желать, например, так мстить кому-то, то, возможно, там была травма, и с помощью терапии, возможно, проработать какие-то вот эти сильные травмирующие чувства и снизить, может быть, или освоить свою тень.
Свою тень. А что значит проработать? В психологии много употребляется проработать.
Это перепрожить, переварить определенный психологический опыт и, возможно, сделать из него позитивный нарратив.
Нарратив. Нарративная терапия.
Да.
Это пересмотрение своего прошлого через разные фильтры, чтобы выбрать такой наиболее подходящий, чтобы принять свое прошлое в более позитивном ключе. Верно?
Да, абсолютно вы правы, да. И любой опыт, его можно рассматривать с точки зрения травмы и болезни, и с точки зрения здоровья. И, конечно, сейчас терапевты больше, современная терапия, психотерапия больше направлена на сторону здоровья, усиления здоровой части человека.
То есть подчеркнуть что-то полезное из этого негативного опыта.
Да, и нарратив помогает построить именно позитивные.
As we can see, changing the narrative can be of great influence to not merely dealing with emotions and managing anger, but happiness altogether. These approaches, as we can see, can be of great influence toward healing. Another way of dealing with the shadow is through analyzing the way our brain reacts to the outside stimuli and its interpretation of them. The two specific ways we can do this is through expressive writing and dream interpretation. The study conducted by Moon explores the benefits of expressing writing for older adults who are experiencing depression. The study uses a mixed method approach to investigate the mechanisms of change that occur as a result of expressive writing. The participants in the study were older adults who were experiencing symptoms of depression. They were randomly assigned to either an expressive writing group or a control group. The expressive writing group were asked to write about their deepest thoughts and feelings about a traumatic or stressful event for 20 minutes a day, for 4 consecutive days. The control group was asked to write about a neutral topic for the same amount of time. The results of the study showed that the participants in the expressive writing intervention group had significantly lower levels of depression and anxiety than the control one. The researchers also used qualitative data to explore the mechanisms of change that occurred as a result of expressive writing. They found that the participants in the expressive writing group had a greater sense of control over their emotions, an increased sense of self-awareness, and a greater ability to express themselves. When it comes to dreams, Finelli analyzes Freud's The Interpretation of Dreams, which can be described by the following cutout from the opening sentence of the book. In the following pages, I shall demonstrate that there is a psychological technique which make it possible to interpret dreams, and that on the application of this technique, every dream will reveal itself as a psychological structure full of significance and one which may be assigned to a specific place in the psychic activities of the waking state. Freud spent 5 years writing this book, where he painstakingly collected 1,000 dreams from his patients, and with scientific objectivity he analyzed many of his own dreams as well. It is evident that Freud first attempted to use hypnosis in order to reveal the truth behind his patients' dreams. When it proved to not work, he asked his patients to merely relax completely and tell him any thoughts that came to their mind. Then, patients started unveiling one thought after another to their therapist, which led to more painful memories. This quite unique practice allowed Freud and his patients to unearth the hidden causes of mental struggles and illnesses of the patients and directly face them. Freud's patients often told the dreams they had the night before, and he noticed that some things kept recurring. Patients flying or running away or loved ones dying all had the same motto and led to similar end results. This method he called free association. Free association can be of great help in understanding the desires and fears of our unconscious. Although Freudian analysis and Jungian analysis are entirely different, the core of the dream interpretation and its significance is the same in both Larissa's and Finelli's approaches, as they state that the dreams can strongly serve as a bridge linking our unconscious and conscious if analyzed and viewed properly.
Типа, второй аргумент – это экспрессивная письменная терапия, да, и, ну, и работа с нами. Что вы скажете?
Письменная терапия – классная техника, иногда действительно многим людям помогает такая работа, потому как, что такое бессознательное? Бессознательные процессы, они не всегда, почему они называются бессознательными, потому что они не доходят до ума, скажем так, образами, либо словами. Когда мы что-то вербализуем, это уже выходит на уровень осознания, либо, на уровень осознания. Когда человек пишет, он тоже получается, что неосознанные процессы на бумагу вербализует словами. И это уже происходит осознавание и переваривание какого-то своего бессознательного опыта. Все волшебство и происходит дальше.
Супер. А работа со снами?
Работа со снами в юнгианском анализе – это прям ключевая тема, потому как Юнг считал, что любой сон – это определенные образы, и все, что мы видим во сне, это образы части нас самих. И поэтому то, как мы во сне взаимодействуем с кем-то либо с чем-то, это в принципе про нас самих.
Resolving traumas can be very well done via usage of active imagination. According to the study at University of Colorado, using neuroimaging techniques, it was proven that the brain's reaction to imagined post-traumatic events and current phobias is a lot like if it was real. This shows that imagination can serve as a powerful tool for further relieving these traumatic experiences and resolving them via actively using it.
Третий аргумент, это вот он состоит из двух частей, это вот активное воображение, чтобы, восстановить связь со своей теневой стороной. Да, то есть активное воображение, что из себя составляет?
Активное воображение, это, например, как я это понимаю, это моделирование своего будущего, либо когда мы применяем технику, которая помогает изменить, трагическую или травмирующую ситуацию, либо опыт. Когда, например, терапевт задает вопрос, а если бы была возможность сделать по-другому, что бы вы сделали? И моделируется другая ситуация, где, возможно, больше ресурсов у человека, способностей.
Или исход в отношениях другой. Например, в психоанализе у меня был такой случай, когда, вот через активное воображение, то есть представляешь человека, который, например, тебе оставил травму душевную, ты используешь все воображение и все, что в твоих руках, чтобы как-то наказать его в своем собственном ментальности.
То есть разрешение гневаться, бить, возможно, ту фигуру, которую невозможно в реальной жизни выразить гнев. И это будет не экологично, но в воображении это можно сделать.
Да, и в физическом, и в сексуальном плане, и в словесном.
Да. И мозг воспринимает нашу, фантазию, наше воображение как реальность. То есть для мозга нет чего-то. То, что он думает, то это и реально.
According to Larissa, we can see that indeed using imagination can help us change the narrative of the traumatic event in our mind in order to let go of it by punishing the perpetrator and resolve this trauma for ourselves. Both of these approaches use neuroimaging to prove whether the set techniques are empirical and scientific in their own regard, and succeeded in doing so. Having now considered all of our options, we can state that the shadow plays a huge role in our lives as it represents the unconscious aspects of ourselves that are suppressed and unaccepted by us, either due to social norms or our own ego image. Regardless, it is important to understand, face, analyze, and accept our subconscious in order to resolve our past traumas. This will grant us a deeper awareness of ourselves and our motives that in turn lead to elimination of abusive behavior and building of a healthy one instead. It is important to note that key point of this video is that abusers are victims themselves that need care and healing. Furthermore, these approaches can be used as an effective starting point for everyone to better understand themselves, their traumas, emotions, underlying conflicts, and models of behavior. This can be used by both parties of an abusive relationship to better understand the reasons for their behavior, of inflicting and tolerating abuse respectively, in an attempt to achieve a fruitful and healthy relationship between the partners. First, narrative therapy can help with anger management, as Stephen, the central figure in the respective case study, through implementation of narrative therapy, learned to cope with his anger and grief over loss of his girlfriend by reframing the way he looks at his past and present. Second technique is dream interpretation and expressive writing. Finelli first digs deep into Freud's work in order to analyze what is the role of dream interpretation in understanding the unconscious through the experiments and observations Freud has made with his own clients. At the same time, expressive writing and keeping a thought journal helped drastically to the intervention group of adults suffering from depression compared to those who did not use such a technique. Two of these can be even combined in order to create a dream journal, which over time can contribute to a better understanding of the unconscious if patterns are correctly found. Active imagination can be another powerful tool for healing from a trauma where a perpetrator can be punished, thus often leading to a resolution of a trauma or at least better coping with it. It can also eliminate fears and phobias associated with it.
So what is the most important approach? Excessive writing and narrative therapy is what is considered to be most effective, but to each their own, and everyone is individual in their best methodology for their respective story.
There are numerous instances of abuse that we pass by every day in our not-so-conscious-yet society. That is why it is often important to understand our own psychological processes that are happening in our brain, resolve everything that needs to be resolved, fully understand and accept our desires, fears, and motivations, to avoid being abusive toward one another, and especially toward the ones we love, our partners, our girlfriends, our boyfriends, our husbands, and our wives. This way, by understanding ourselves, we can avoid abuse of any type, be it emotional, physical, or sexual, as we all are parts of the collective whole called the human race.